on this week in the world of politics. Before we get too far, um, my condolences go out to Senator Diane Feinstein's family with her passing yesterday or last night. Um, she, even though I did not agree with her politics on pretty much every matter she voted on, the fact is she did serve this country for a good many years. Now, it is unfortunate that the Democrats and so forth, in her declining health, kept her propped up in that position and didn't allow her to step down, didn't allow her to bow out gracefully. Instead, they used her as literally a puppet over the last several months, just so that they could get that all important vote.
Well, so the saddest thing, Mike, we got to mention this. It is sad that she died, and sad for her family, her friends, that she's passed away. I mean, of course, that's a sad moment, but it's really telling and insulting to see that up until the moment she died, the Democrats were literally carting her into and out of Congress to place votes that they puppeted her. Literally, we have seen her be told how to vote, what to say, what to do. Since the last time she was in the hospital until the moment of her death, she was voting on Thursday as she was being told what to say and how to vote. Not representing anyone. That's I don't know. That's desperation.
There were several votes that they had her change because they weren't in line with what they wanted.
Yeah, and it's
okay.
Go ahead.
That shows me right there that she wasn't in the mindset to actually be serving her constituents well. And it is really sad. Evening, Dal. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you. Dal is a regular with us. We always enjoy his input on various things. So, good evening, Dal.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It is truly sad that they treated somebody that was such a significant figure in American politics for so many years, and to treat her that way at the end of her life is just appalling to me.
It's evil. She didn't get to spend her last moments with her family in her home, relaxing, having quality time. No, she was there being puppeted around to push a political agenda. And same thing that's happening to John Fetterman. They don't care about him. They don't care about his medical issues. They need the vote and they need to push the agenda. And they're willing to abuse people who have mental illnesses, who have mental medical issues, that have other medical issues, anything and everything to push the agenda, as they promise. We're empathetic to all these people. We're here to help these people. We have so much empathy, and yet they act without empathy on so many levels. We saw those with Kamala and the hurricane in Florida. We've seen that with Joe Biden on 9/11 being in Alaska. We're seeing it with Fetterman. We're seeing it with Diane Feinstein. Why won't anyone just be honest and say, no, there is no empathy from the Democratic Party when it comes to their agenda? Their agenda is first. You are peons, and they will nullify voters. They will nullify the voice of the public to make sure their agenda moves forward. That's the worst thing that comes out of this.
And here's something else. What's her name? Is it Tegan? She ran for president. She was a representative, Democrat. but she was a Democrat that had a backbone and actually stood by her principles, not just she didn't toe the party line. What the hell's her name?
Well, there's been several Democrats recently who have been switching over, and we have heard this in Georgia and a few other places, South Carolina as well, as I recall, where we've been hearing from these Democrats, some of them women, some of them people of color, who have been saying, this is what the Democratic Party is about right now. It's toe the line, stay on the plantation, do as you are told. Whatever your individual views, whatever your individual voice is, it doesn't matter. You must do what the party says. You have to be a yes person, yes man, yes woman for the party, kind of like Kirsten Gillibrand. Just yes, yes, yes. And that's it. And you don't get to question anything. You don't get to put out your voice. You don't get
Tulsi
to
Gabbard.
Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard said the same thing.
Okay. And there's a lot of positions that I didn't agree with Tulsi Gabbard, but at least she had a spine. At least she was actually there to represent her citizens that were voting for her, and they forced her out. And we see that all the time.
Dal is putting out a comment in case people.
Yeah, I just read that.
It won't happen that way.
No, I don't think it will either. Kamala is too much of a power monger.
Well, yeah,
she will do everything to keep power.
Yeah, but no one would take the downgrade from vice president to senator, which she already was.
No.
Why would she do that? She's in line for the presidency and be the groundbreaking, historic glass ceiling. Oh, she's the first woman of color. She wants that title, that postmark and that bookmark in history. She's never going to step down. So,
yeah.
But I'm sure Newsom would hope she would do that, but that's not going to happen.
Well, one theory that I did see run across is Newsom actually appointing himself as senator.
Technically, he could do that.
Right. And I could see that as a step, him doing that as a stepping stone towards a presidential run, potentially. But honestly, I think that would be almost tantamount of political suicide, too.
Yeah, there'd be too much controversy. It would be too negative and the current momentum.
But anyway, going back to how they treated Feinstein, folks, if you didn't know it already, if a senator or even a representative steps down while in between their elections, it is typically the governor of the state has the authority to appoint a temporary senator or representative to replace that until the next election cycle. Okay. Why wasn't this ever offered for Feinstein? Feinstein could have stepped down at any point, and she should have.
She refused.
Okay. She should have. And the thing is, they have a Democrat governor for the state of California. Okay, so you know she would have been replaced with another Democrat.
Theoretically, what I've heard is, and it's been reported that they did suggest that she should resign, and she declined, and she was going to retire anyway, which is why Adam Schiff is trying to get her seat, because Adam Schiff has been shut down in the House of Representatives, and he's looking for an upgrade because he hopes one day to be president himself. This is the man, Adam Schiff, if you're not familiar, out of California. He's the one who lied to America for 3 years in a row, saying that he had evidence confirming and proving Russia collusion that he never presented to the American people, even though he was on Rachel Maddow on a daily at some points process for 3 years. Never presented the evidence, was basically being McCarthy all over again, McCarthyism from the 50s, and to this day has never apologized to American people.
No.
And he's looking to lose his seat in Congress, in the House. So he wanted to go, he's running for the Senate, and now he's almost a shoo-in. But I think but going with the inside baseball, if Diane had resigned, McCarthy, who wanted the seat, was not going to be appointed to the seat.
You mean Schiff?
Schiff, excuse me. Adam Schiff was not going to be appointed to the seat, since he wouldn't get appointed, and whoever did would most likely get reelected. He was the one opposing that scenario so that he would have a chance to run, so that he could win the seat. And so it's inside California politics that helped to push this. But the fact that the Democratic Party, both in California and in the House and in the Senate, that they wouldn't value the last moments of this woman's life over the political intrigue and infighting says a lot about where the Democratic Party is and their intentions towards America, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's very telling. And the thing, like we said, okay, there are many times, and not only that, there are mechanisms where a sitting senator or representative who is in failing health, either mentally or through other means, where they just can't really do the job, can be removed from office.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have special elections. We have appointments by governors.
And that would have been really the most humanitarian thing that could have been done for Ms. Feinstein. Like I said, I don't agree with her positions on pretty much everything, but I still respect her, okay, because she was voted for by the people. What?
No, I don't respect her. I don't respect her positions. I don't respect what she did.
I don't respect her positions.
Yeah, okay? I don't respect the fact that she had a. Now, I don't respect that she employed a Chinese spy for 20 years while being on the intelligence committee and compromised the United States. I do not. I will not say that I respected her. I understand her position. It's sad that she's dead, but I'm not going to suddenly turn around and say, and I know people go, don't speak ill of dead. Look, I'm just being honest and consistent. I didn't like her when she was in office. I didn't like what she did in office. I thought she was a problem then. I think her positions remain a problem. I'm not going to back down on that. It's sad that she's dead, but she was a problem, and her party is a problem. So for me, I can't, I'll say, again, no one should, I'm sad that she died. I'm sad when anyone dies. But I didn't respect her then. I don't respect her now. That's just me.
And
I'm being honest.
And that's okay. We need to be honest. Okay. And like I said, I don't respect any of the positions that she held. Okay. And honestly, I don't think she was that good of a senator. What I do respect is the fact that she did serve her constituents, maybe not in a way that they should have been served, but she evidently did something because she continued to get voted in term after term after term.
Fair point.
Okay. So either either we can say that elections don't work, or we can say that the people that were her constituents wanted her in that position. Okay, and that kind of gets back to a little bit on the topic that we were talking about last week and the Convention of States, and primarily the push for getting term limits established. Okay, and you know how I feel on both of those. Okay, number one, I don't agree with term limits for the simple fact that we already have term limits. Okay, and we can exercise term limits every time we go to the ballot box, but the American citizenry refuses to do so. With what was the last election, an 87% reelection rate for incumbents?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and historically it's between 88 and 92%.
Okay, and I mean, point blank, you want term limits, but yet you don't want to exercise your ability to remove somebody from office when you think they've been there too long.
Well, in polling, the answer to this is always people tend to say their representative is okay, but it's all the others that are bad.
That was my point that I was getting ready to get to.
Yeah.
Okay, that was exactly my point. Okay. They want term limits for everybody else but their own, is what it amounts to. And that's what this push for term limits is all about. They want term limits for everybody else, and they will accept it on their candidate because it will take everybody else out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, you guys don't really want term limits. You want to dictate how other districts determine who represents them. That's what it comes down to. You don't like a representative from another district, okay, or another state, and you don't think that they should be in office multiple terms. That's what this talk about term limits is really all about.
Yeah. It's something that really, we don't need the conventions of states to do it, but if that's the way to get it done, fantastic. It's something that the American public have been convinced they don't need to do by the political leadership and the news media. Because if the news media were talking about this honestly on a regular basis and say, no, you have the right and the ability to make sure term limits happen, they could say, hey, why is this person in for 2, 3, 4 decades, some of them almost to 5 decades in elected office? And yet, when we look at their success rate, their effectiveness rate, look at the bills that they've put in, look at how many of them have actually passed, or for the ones that did pass, if any at all, how well did it, what result came from that? They don't do that. And if the media was doing its job, and if we were honest and fair, it would. And people would suddenly go, oh, keeping someone in 2, 3, 4 decades doesn't make them more efficient. It doesn't make them more effective. It doesn't get better bills passed or even suggested. It just gets them more powerful and more corrupt in a system that is growing to be more and more corrupt and overburdening on the American people. And Al says, no one's representing him, and he does not have their vote. Convincing others by asking questions or hoping they think on it. Yeah, we need to hold our elected officials to a higher standard. Al is absolutely correct.
And that's the thing that we say over and over on this show. I mean, that's our position. That's been our position since day one. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why actually the Liberty First Foundation was even established, was to hold our representatives to a higher standard. Okay, but more importantly, to hold the American people to a higher standard. Okay, I mean, honestly, we control the government. And when we refuse to do our job, we get what we see today. And as Frank says quite often in this on this show, we have the government we deserve.
Hmm. Yeah, sadly.
Okay. And until we, the people, start getting involved, and as you can see right behind me, it says, we, the people, start getting involved, nothing's going to change. It's going to be the same over and over. We're going to get more and more divided. We're going to get more and more political animosity against the various subsect groups that we've all been divided into. And it will eventually lead to another civil war, unfortunately. Okay, we are headed down that path.
We've been seeing people talk about it more and more since 2017. It's been a very common comment. And I know people like Tim Pool make a living off of that. But let's be honest, it is more and more in the public. It's becoming more of a mainstream conversation because, looking at DEI, what is that? What is equity? It is the ever increasing division versus the categorization of individuals. You're no longer an individual, you're just a category. And there's ever and always increasing numbers of categories. And those categories are ranked based on some arbitrary group of individuals saying, well, this category is more important or ranks higher than some other category. And they use that to constantly divide people. And so you can't have a unified nation if everyone's a category and those categories are all pitted against each other. Well, then, of course, we are going to see more and more animosity, and we get closer and closer to a civil war, which benefits no one. Not in America, anyway. It may benefit China, would definitely benefit Iran and possibly Russia, but definitely won't help America.
No, I won't.
Hi, Jen. Good to see you made it. So Jan's here with us as well. Always good to see our audience and see the comments.
Hi, Jan. Okay, to tell you how mainstream this is getting. Okay, Time Magazine did an article on October 20th, 2022. The U.S. is headed toward a second civil war. Basically, they said how to save the U.S. from a second civil war. Brookings asked, does the U.S. head to another civil war? Why today is not like the Guardian has a piece that the conditions are ripe for political violence.
First article I
New York Times, Los Angeles Times.
Well, again, the first article I wrote about that, and the first time I covered it was back in 2017.
Nice.
So the mainstream media is only just catching up because there's been so much of a groundswell, so much conversation about it that they can't keep pushing it off. In 2017, there wasn't as many people having this feeling and saying something's going wrong. Today, they can't hold that back. They can't hold that back and just say, "Oh, well, it's just the outliers. It's just those weird people." No, this is a mainstream conversation.
It is. Okay. Rasmussen poll that was done said that this is done. And let me find the date on this article. Okay. March 27th, 2019, Rasmussen did a poll. And in that poll, they found, and they did that actually in June of 2018 was when they did the poll. And it said 31% of Americans believed that the U.S. was headed towards the second Civil War.
Yeah, that number's gone up since then.
Oh, yeah, it's up massively since then. And that's why we're starting to see lots of more of this happening.
Yeah. And DEI is one of the biggest reasons. The more we focus on that, the more we're pushing towards that second Civil War outcome.
Okay.
I truly believe that.
But it's not just that. Okay. It is the political parties dividing us into further and further subsects. Hold on a second. I got to figure.
Well, I don't think it's not just the different political parties. I think it's things like what we saw that happened in Arizona this week. The abuse that we're seeing from political figures, like in Arizona, Katie Hobbs, she disappeared. Now, I know that the news media is right now, they're trying to say, well, no, she didn't just disappear. That didn't really happen. And I'll show you what I mean, folks. Let me share this on the screen with you. So can you see that, folks? Katie Hobbs, she goes out and news media is saying, no, she didn't just disappear, except she did. See, because Arizona state law says that when the governor leaves the state, the next person in line takes over. And so she was out, the Secretary of State, which in most states that would be the lieutenant governor, that's the second person in line. They were all in D.C. So the treasurer of Arizona took over. Here's the thing. No one knew where there was articles coming out from local Arizona news like KGUN, KGUN. Local Arizona news stations were saying, where's the governor? She's just gone. She's not in the state. She has no power. She's given over her power temporarily to the treasurer. No one knows where the Secretary of State is. No one knows where the governor is. No one knows what's going on. And she didn't respond, not on Twitter, not to the news media. She's gone all Wednesday or Wednesday evening. She's gone Thursday. No one starts talking about it until late Thursday. Today, Friday, they start saying, well, she was in D.C. It was all normal. Really? Then why didn't the news media know where she was? Why is it she allowed and her staff allowed the American people, her constituents, to know she was in the dark? To say, we have no idea where she is. Calvin may have grabbed her up and gone off to fairyland. Who knows? Because we didn't know what was going on. Because she didn't think it was important enough to tell her constituents what she was doing, nor did her staff think it was important enough to tell the public, to go onto news media and just say, oh no, she's in D.C. And everybody else, the Secretary of State, all the officials are in D.C. all at the same time. That's why the treasurer is suddenly taking power. That's why it's part of the state law. But that's an abuse of power. They knew it would create fear. They knew that they could just do whatever they wanted, and the public in the dark, having no idea what's going on, will just sit quietly, and the news media would not report it. If it weren't for the fact that the public saw her letter saying, I temporarily resigned my position or stepped down temporarily. If the news media didn't have that letter, which was shared by the public, not the news media, the public saw that letter and said, hey, why don't we know what's going on? In the same way that the same Democrats, the same leadership that don't care enough to allow Diane Feinstein to die at home with dignity with her family are the same people who don't care enough to tell the Democrats in Arizona, the voters and the public, to tell them, hey, no, everything's okay. She didn't just willy-nilly decide to disappear because of a scandal. She was doing business, and this is okay. No, they don't care because they think you're just going to sit there and obey and be quiet. And it's only when there's a groundswell of people speaking up that suddenly they respond. And that's what leads us to when people feel like they're not being heard and that they're being abused, that's when you get things like a second civil war, I believe. Does that make sense to you, Mike? Does that tie it together?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find out why she had to go to DC so abruptly.
Well, that's the thing. She was there to speak with Mayorkas, the Secretary of State for Arizona was there to talk about economics. It would seem that these were scheduled meetings, but here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. See, I've worked in the press for 17 years, and I know I've dealt with political figures. I've done interviews with them. I know that they put out their schedules to the news media on a regular basis. They have an itinerary. So when they're going on a trip, when Gavin Newsom decides to go across America as a presidential runner-up, to basically feeling out whether or not he could run, he let every single news media station know what states he was going to be in, what events he was going to. We see it to all the candidates. We see this all the time. They say, this is where I'm going to be. This is what I am doing. So that the news media knows where to go to cover it. Except the Arizona governor going to D.C. to talk about the immigration, illegal immigration, the gates in the wall that were welded open, and the thousands of illegal aliens that were allowed to enter into Arizona under the orders of the Biden Harris administration. When she's there talking to Secretary Mayorkas about this problem, well, the news media would normally know about that. Why didn't they know about it? It makes me feel like this is a cover-up. This is a cover story because something else happened. Something else happened. That's why the news media didn't have that on their schedule. And none of the news media knew where she was for about 24 hours. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And honestly, okay, everybody else, it was known ahead of time that they were going. And here Hobbs, who went to part of her trip, I guess she was gone for more than just a day.
Day and a half.
Let's see, where was I reading that?
It was about 36 hours.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Mayorkas went to Taiwan and wasn't.
Yeah, they were talking about illegal immigration. They were talking about the gates that were welded open and all the illegals that were being just shoveled through into Arizona, overburdening the rest of the nation.
Right. And that's another thing that we do need to kind of touch on. The immigration issue is not getting better, folks. It's actually getting worse.
No shock there.
What's that?
No shock there.
Right. I mean, it is literally getting worse. It is impacting the entire nation. It's not just New York City or any of that. I guess there's a lot of problems with cartel activity in Erie County in New York. There's a lot of cartel activity showing up in Montana. And what's really been going on, and this has been happening, Michael and I were discussing this a little bit before the show, and Michael brought up that this has been happening for a little over 2 years.
No, way more. First
The
time I
cartel.
noticed it. Yeah, first time I noticed the northern border being a avenue for illegal aliens. First time we were reporting that was back in 2014, and people may not remember this, but back in 2014, when a van full of illegal aliens suspected of being terrorists entered into New York State from Canada and believed to be in a van containing either explosives or chemical weapons. And they had just driven across the border into the United States and they were being tracked. This was in 2014. And that brought up the question, how easy is it to get into the United States from Canada? And throughout the entire Northwest, it's wide open. You can just backpack across the forest. There is no gate. There is no security, no surveillance. You can just walk in. And the cartels have been using that since about 2014. So it's been about 10 years.
Yeah. I'm going to bring up something here real quick.
Mind you, the news media doesn't ever like to talk about the northern border.
No,
when
they don't.
talk about it. No, they want everyone. Why? You know why? You know why I think they don't talk about it? Because Democrats can't point to the northern border and say, "Well, you're a racist." They can't say, "Well, those people have brown skin, so you're just a racist. Stop talking." No, because people in Canada tend to be lighter skinned, white or indigenous. And so they can't go, oh, see, they're obviously look different. Therefore, you're a racist because you're not doing what we say. And they can't just silence people. So they don't want to talk about the northern border.
No, they don't. Okay. I'm going to show this is from Google Maps. Okay. So this is the border crossing at between New York and the United States at I-87 and Canadian Interstate 15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it looks like it's a pretty large facility.
Yeah. If you
Well,
zoom
I want
out
to show
like
you
that.
something here. Look right here. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not.
Yeah, we see it.
Rang St. Andre Road and Meridian Road. I'm going to zoom in here.
That's someone's
That is the border
garage.
crossing. Okay. You see a little big gate right there.
Bunch of trees and a gate to someone's garage. And it's what? 2
No,
miles
actually,
away?
that is a border patrol facility.
Is it? Okay. It looks like
Mhm.
a garage. Because it's
Okay, and
the
the
same
reason why I
size.
know it's a border patrol facility, you see the shadow right here?
Yeah.
That's camera.
Oh, goody. Because that's going to stop people.
Hmm. Okay, and right here, this little narrow shadow,
This
that's
flagpole.
another
Oh, okay.
camera deal. Okay, this used to actually be an active border crossing area. This is border patrol facility, but it's not manned. Okay, so I'm going to continue east on this.
So less than 5 miles away, I see nothing but trees that anyone could just walk across.
Okay, well, if you look, I don't see any real
There's no gate there.
barriers.
There's no gates. That's just them cutting down trees. There's no gates there.
Okay, so we keep going across. Nice golf course. Okay, there is no barrier. Okay. And here is another border control point. Okay. This is in the town of Broussers Point, New York.
Yeah, how many miles away? How many miles of forest and a golf course do you have to go that
Actually, it's not that far.
yeah, but it's far
Um,
enough. That's my point.
right.
It's far enough.
Okay. It's less than 5 miles between those 2 points.
Do you know how many people I can get through in a forest in 5 miles
Oh, yeah.
and
You can
never
get a
be
shit
seen?
ton of people through.
We can get
Okay.
platoons of people. We can get an entire military company through a forest in less than 5 miles without anyone ever noticing.
Okay. So I'm going to continue across here. Right. Okay. And you can see a border road, Highway 276, literally right on the border. Okay. And here is another border crossing point where you see Canada has a pretty significant presence, but you don't see much on the U.S. side.
See, but I don't. Here's the thing about when it comes to these border crossings, everyone likes to look at these junction points. The illegal aliens don't care about any of that.
No,
That's my problem. They're
no.
going the spots that we're looking at on the northern border, just like on the southern border. It's these gaps that are miles apart where anyone can just walk across. That's
Now,
the problem. Like
this
there,
is Lake
that's
Champlain.
huge.
Okay. And it's roughly 3/4 of a mile across here. Okay. And that's completely open. There is no barriers there to stop anybody. This bridge goes across, boats freely go on underneath it with no issues. Okay. Big sailboats. In fact, this marina, Barkham's Marina, um, and Gaines Safe Harbor Marina, the majority of boats in those two marinas are Canadian owned.
Yeah. So illegal immigration is as bad, if not worse, than what we see at the southern border. It's not popular. It's harder for, and really, the big thing, it's harder for the news crews to go and find anyone because there's a big forest. They can't find the people. It's not that it's not happening, it's that they can't easily travel the forest with a bunch of cameras and report on it, which is why they don't
Now,
want to talk about it.
I'm going to go to the other side of the state because I talked about Erie County. Okay, and right here, there is no border control across this whole river, across St. Lawrence, right there.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
not like
where are
Texas
we
where they
at?
got buoys up.
Pull out here and
I mean,
figure
just
out
look
where.
at all those gaps. You can go straight across.
Okay, so now we're here near Erie County. Okay, and here is another big gap. Okay, it's nothing to get across here. Okay, I'll zoom in and show you the border control point at this point. Okay, I mean, really, there isn't much there. Canadian side's got quite a bit.
Sort of. But I mean, look at what's within half a mile on either side.
Right.
Which way do you think the illegal aliens, the people who are trying to get in without authorization? I just had a debate about this on Wednesday, with Larry Sharp and a liberal, Charlotte Burnett, and they're like, "Oh no, it's not so bad. They, illegal immigration. What's an illegal alien? Someone who is not authorized in any form to be in America, and those people are crossing." Look at all those trees. Perfect time for them
right
to cross.
here. Okay. That's probably less than 100 feet. Okay. Probably 30 feet.
Then cross that easy. Paddle boat right across.
Yeah. I mean, right there. Okay. You can see that's a barn. Okay. And the distance across that's about the length of that barn.
Yep. Barn might actually be bigger.
Okay, so right there is one place where they can easily cross. Okay, and then there's all kinds of places in through here that you can hide, and you can tell that none of these areas is very deep. Okay, so that's just New York. I haven't even gotten to Montana. Okay, Michigan's going to have a lot of the same issues as New York.
It gets worse the further into the Northeast you get, like Oregon and such, and North Dakota. The further you go, the worse it gets, the easier it is to enter the United States. That's just a fact.
Okay, so right here, this is between North Dakota and Canada.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in as far as I can before I lose everything. And you can see there is nothing other than a path.
Yeah.
That designates the border. Okay, there's no fence, nothing. No barrier.
Yeah, that's my problem. That's my big problem with that.
Okay, and so that was between North Dakota and Canada. Let's see where we're at now.
Yeah, but Mike, you can go all the way across.
Okay, and here's Montana.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay, I mean, this would be a great place. And if I was going to come across, this is where I would come across.
Yeah, nothing but trees.
Okay.
Nothing but trees in a path.
Great cover. You've got no barriers. Okay, I mean, yeah, you can tell that it might be a little bit of rugged terrain, but really not that harsh of terrain.
Well, the coyotes don't care. They don't care how rugged it is. They just want the bodies to get across the border.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, right here's a nice little waterway that you float across. Okay, even a campground that you can stay out when you get across.
Well, and I want to address Mike Bowie makes a good point that, well, yeah, they're not even, many of them are not even hiding, which is why we have 11,000 illegal aliens per day entering that we know of attempting to enter the United States from the southern border. And you're right, Mike. They're not trying to hide because the second they touch our land, they instantly go and say, well, Joe Biden guaranteed asylum. I'm claiming asylum, even though they can't. You're from Angola. Guess what? The first nation isn't the United States from Angola or from Venezuela or from Brazil or from Egypt or the Middle East, Southeast Asia. We're not the first stop. China, the first stop from China isn't the United States. And yet they're coming, and we know these numbers are accurate. We know people are coming from Africa. We know they're coming from China. We know they're coming from all over South America, as always. But they're coming from overseas into the United States.
And here's the thing, okay? They are the first country they make landfall in. Okay? So if the cartel is flying, if they are seeking asylum from Mexico and they fly to Canada, then they are to request asylum in Canada, not the United States.
It's crazy. And by the way, Canada has stronger laws about this than we do. Canada just signed an agreement with New York State saying
almost every country in the world has stronger immigration laws than we do.
Yeah. Hey, Frank. We see you there.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen watching the show. Sorry for my tardiness. It's been a hell of a rough week, and I just had a transmission drop on my head about 2 hours ago.
Oh, you okay?
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a rough week. I didn't think I was going to make it out of the driveway today.
No, I know the feeling.
So, I see you guys were doing a tutorial on Rand McNally maps and stuff like that. It says, let me jump in and see what's going on, because I don't know if you covered the passing.
Yes.
Yes, we did.
The passing.
Well, give your thoughts on it.
Well, my mother always taught me never to speak ill of the dead and never to, celebrate anyone's demise. And I think that advice might prove to be fortuitous, because the person we have to remember going to appoint somebody to fill that slot will be Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
And he will most assuredly, considering his exploits with the Second Amendment, probably appoint somebody even further to the left than Diane Feinstein.
Yeah.
Who knows? He might even appoint himself, because he can do that if he wanted to.
Well, we actually touched on that. And I think both Michael and I believe that would be political suicide for him if he did that.
Yeah, I believe that Adam Schiff was one of the reasons why Feinstein didn't retire, besides a couple of other problems from the upper end of the leadership. Newsom doesn't want to appoint Adam Schiff. So Adam Schiff wants it to be a vote, because whoever gets appointed is going to win re-election, because that's just how that district works. It's 88%, 90%. Actually, with Feinstein, 100% re-election of whoever's in that office. So we're seeing that little internal tug of war, which led to the abuse of an elder and the nullification of voters, because Dianne Feinstein was being puppeted around and told what to say, what to vote, what to do, up to the moment of her death. And I don't think that's talking ill of her to say that's what they did to her. And people want to hide that by saying, oh, and I don't think it's because of ill will, but people don't want to mention that because, well, she just died. Well, it's important to understand what were her last moments. She was being used as a puppet. She was being abused. And we shouldn't hide from that because, oh, it's kind of sad and harsh to talk about. It's the reality. Let's talk about that reality so the next person doesn't have to go through the same thing, whether it's Mitch McConnell or it's Biden or anyone else. Well, lost Frank there. Don't know if he heard all that and agreed with me or not.
I don't know. I don't know where he went. He ran away.
In case people are wondering, if I'm not looking directly in the screen, I can't see what's happening with everything else. So if you see me turn, it's because I'm looking at either the comments and or people who are speaking. So I didn't see him disappear. There you go. Frank, I don't know. Did you agree with me or no? If you heard what I said.
Well, I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into the elder abuse thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not that she was competent. We all know that she wasn't. But I'm pretty sure she probably had a part in that too. Saying, hey, listen, as long as there's a breath in me, you just keep pushing me around. You just keep, put a stick up my shirt and let me raise my hand whichever way you want me to vote. If the woman had the slightest sense of decency and respect for the American voter, she would have retired a generation ago. Instead of holding on to a seat that should have gone to somebody else. So the whole idea, it was elder abuse and they were doing this, you know what? She was part and parcel to that decision. She was part and parcel to it. So I'm not exactly going to have a whole hell of a lot of sympathy when it comes to, whether or not, she was being mistreated, so to speak. She's been mistreating the voters of California for years. She's been using her office to locate and lock a position of power that could not be undermined for the last 40 years. The woman has done everything she could to retain power and retain an ideology and drive California further off the cliff. Do I feel sorry that they had to push her around in a wheelchair? No, I don't feel sorry. Do I feel sorry for the people of California? No, they keep voting for her. Who do I feel sorry for? I feel sorry for the rest of America that is going to have to deal with the consequences of having one more senator from California be further to the left than their governor. That's who I feel sorry for, the people in America that cannot control what happens in California. The same way we can't control what happens in New York. We can't control what happens in Illinois or anywhere the rest of these socialist, communist people come from. I feel sorry for us. But as far as what I think is going to, somebody said, don't be surprised if Gavin appoints himself senator, moves into that position, they figure out a way how to oust Kamala, put Gavin into VP, and then 25th Amendment Joe. And I'm like, well, you don't really have a whole lot of hell of a time to get that scenario all played out. But they're still trying to figure out a way how to bring in Big Mike.
Now, it would be easier, honestly, for Newsom to appoint somebody to the Senate, for them to find some way to oust Kamala and to appoint Newsom as from his governorship to that. Okay, if they do too many jumps with Newsom, it is going to hurt him more than anything.
Don't think about. Hey, listen, a lot of jumps took place in 73 and 74. Remember, nobody knew who the hell Gerald Ford was until he was president. This is a guy who got swept up because he was in the right place at the right time and knew how to be handled. He went from a representative to vice president to president in between that.
Mm-hmm.
And
very different world now than then. I don't think that Newsom doing that would work well for 2024. I think it would be there would be too much backlash.
No, well, again, I'm still of the mind where I think they know 2024 is going to be a lost cause for them. And I think right now it's going to, Biden is probably just looking at personal damage control. He doesn't want to get impeached. He knows it's coming. He doesn't want to get tried. He knows that's coming. He doesn't want to face criminal charges. So they're going to try and figure out a way how to, saunter the guy off into the sunset, without him, standing in an orange jumpsuit at some point. The evidence that came out this week
this as a prime opportunity to do a lot of political wrangling. But I think the scenario is Newsom's going to stay as governor. Okay, he has too much power as governor of the state of California. He wouldn't have near that power as a senator. So he's going to stay where he's at. He's going to appoint somebody that he can easily control, or that the Democrat Party can easily control, into
Adam
that
Schiff.
seat.
It's going to be Adam Schiff. They're going to continue. It'll be Adam Schiff.
Okay. I do see that this is also a prime opportunity to really raise red flags, and we already see that happening because the New York Times did an op-ed podcast about Joe Biden and how he is lagging in the polls against Trump and so forth. So I do look for them to do some type of wrangling to get Biden out of office and get him into some type of protected status due to mental shortcomings.
He'll get a
Now,
pardon.
how that will play out, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if it will play. I honestly see it playing out as a maneuver to get the first person of color in the White House.
I think that's their selling gimmick. That's their gimmick.
Okay, I do see that as a selling gimmick, and I also see that being a good way to counter the Trump narratives that are going on right now. Because just as soon as Biden is either forced out or steps down due to his inability, and Kamala takes that seat, that's going to give Kamala a big push. And it's going to unite there's going to be a lot of people unite under her just because she is a woman of color.
It's not about Kamala. It's about her sex and her skin tone. The people who are the most adamant screaming about, racism, sexism, are using it as a tool. Kamala is merely the vehicle to represent female and person of color, and they don't really care. And that's why she's going to be pushed.
And we would be close enough to an election, and so that she would still be eligible to run for re-election. And if I'm not mistaken, she would also be eligible to run in 2028.
Yes.
As well.
She would.
Okay. More than likely, she would definitely be the Democratic nominee for 2024. And because of not necessarily who she is, but what she represents, she will get a big boost right before the elections. And this will all happen. Let's see.
April through June.
I see it happening probably June, July timeframe. Maybe even August. because they want it close enough to the election that she can't do too much damage prior to the election.
It's going to be a horror show in terms of international politics because no one respects her. No one thinks she's.
They don't
qualified.
care.
Well, no, I think they do. I think they see her as being insanely weak with no friends.
I'm not talking about the international players, the international community. I'm talking about the Democratic Party. They don't care.
Oh, no, they don't care. But I think that the international players, seeing a Kamala in there, Joe Biden is weak as hell, and they all know it, which is why tensions have been rising as is. But you put in a Kamala, they might have some respect for Joe Biden because of his history and maybe knowing him in the past. They got zero respect for Kamala, and we have seen that when she has gone over to South Korea, when she has gone over to Europe. We've seen that in her conversations. The one time she had a meeting about the southern border, and she keeps getting jobs. She still hasn't done her first job, which is the czar of the southern border to take care of immigration. She still hasn't done that job since March 2021. She's a complete failure. And now she's in charge of gun control, and she's supposed to be in charge of AI. She has no idea. She is not respected, and putting her as the top dog into the White House is a signal that there is nothing to fear coming out of the United States. She is too weak and too inept, and you will see the rest of the rogue powers of the world. We're talking North Korea, we're talking Iran, we're talking China and Russia. Will go ballistic. I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, okay, the left doesn't care. Quite frankly. Okay, they just want to check off their box as being the first party to have a woman, person of color, as president.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just like New York checked off its box with Hochul as the first sitting woman governor when she was when Como stepped down because he was about to be removed from office
for 11 counts of sexual assault confirmed by the DA, the New York's general. Was she? She's the general counsel. No. She's the
state attorney.
State attorney. That's it. That's what I was looking for. She's the state attorney. Confirmed 11 counts of sexual assault that disappeared and totally.
Well, that was a condition. Is if he stepped down as governor, they wouldn't prosecute him. Yeah,
they wouldn't prosecute on that or the 16,000 people that his policies led to killing in nursing homes.
Mm-hmm.
It's sick. It's sick with the Democratic, and these are the empathetic people. These are the people that tell us they're the empathetic ones, that they're looking out for the common person. This is their slogan for their party. They killed thousands of people. They made unemployed tens of thousands of people. They are abusing elders before our eyes. They have no respect around the world, and they're the empathetic ones. It's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, Dahl brings up something here too. Right now is the time when everybody starts getting in their mailboxes the budgets for the next school year and the voting to approve and disapprove those. And here's the thing, Dal. Everybody approves it because it's for the kids, and they keep harping about how much our schools need money, how much our schools need money. Okay, because deteriorating classrooms, and we got to stay ahead, and this, that, and the other. That's why people vote for it. Okay. Because they don't take the time to actually figure out what's going on.
Well, throwing money at the problem has yet to fix the problem. Doesn't work. Doesn't work with gun control. Doesn't work with schools. Doesn't work. Doesn't work with the war on poverty. Just doesn't work. Throwing money at the issue is not improving the situation.
I'm going to show you a school that was done recently. Okay.
Oh, and then we should talk about the shutdown.
Okay.
Since we're talking about government spending money.
I actually am trying to hide these marks.
Well, while you're doing that, it's funny that we're seeing the states go around and say, we need to spend more money in schools, even though, as an example, New York and California, Illinois are some of the highest spending schools in terms of education. They spend more money on education than almost any other state and many countries. And they're saying, well, we just need more money. Meanwhile, this rampant spending, New York's bankrupt. They're in the red. We have California in the red. They're bankrupt. We see that there's $33 trillion in debt in the nation. Obama doubled the debt. We're seeing similar kinds of actions under the Biden administration. We know it's going to 35 trillion. They already approved that increase. So there's another 2 trillion, which is making inflation that is stripping away people's retirements, their bank accounts. It's destroying the economy. And now they're complaining, oh yeah, but the government's going to shut down because we're the good guys and we just got to spend more money. It's ridiculous. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so this school, as you can see, now this is a combination high school, middle school, and elementary school. Okay. Brand new athletic field. Extensive remodeling throughout the entire facility. The school gives free meals every day to their students.
Where is it?
What's that?
Where is it?
I'm not going to say where it is as far as the actual town. I will say it's in upstate New York.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Now, this is the school. And it's got a pretty good sized district. This building right over here, where my cursor is, that's the fire department.
Well, they don't need a lot of room for a truck, like one truck. What, they got 2? Looks like they got 2 bays.
They've actually got 4.
They got 4. Okay. I stand corrected.
Okay, and an ambulance that's manned 24/7.
But here's the thing I wonder about.
Okay, they've got
Hold it.
5 tennis courts.
Hey, Michael, back that out for a second, please. At your 12 o'clock, what is that triangular shaped object about 1 inch above your cursor?
That is for track and field.
Yeah, that's the put. What do they call it? The cannonball.
Javelin.
Okay. Maybe I got too much range time on my head It kind of looked like a skeet trap for a second. All right, listen, fellas, I only wanted to stop in and say good evening to you guys tonight. It's been today is the last day of a hellacious week that I've been having to endure. I just wanted to stop in, say hello to everybody. Let everybody know of a couple of things that we're going to be doing very soon.
No, go ahead.
I'm almost done with an extensive study project about biometric safes and whether or not you should actually rely on them. And some of my conclusions that I came to during the course of testing 5 different units and various contraptions, I was more surprised than I thought I would be with the reliability of them. And in doing so, we have selected the one that I think is got the least amount of issues, least fallible. And in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be giving it away for free right here on one live episode of the Weekly Roundtable.
Sweet.
However, to be the recipient of one of our giveaways, and we're not talking about some little cheap, $10 thing here. We're talking about something that's rather expensive. There's going to be certain criteria set in order to be eligible to win one of these things, and we will discuss those next week when we also debut our very own coffee blend.
Nice.
We will now have listen, we understand that sometimes people don't like to dig into their pocket to make donations and stuff like that, because money short, times are hard. It's always the way it is, and we always want to try and make sure that if we get something from the public, we want to make sure that we give something back to the public. And in doing so, we've come up with a couple of different ideas of things that we would like to be able to give back to everybody. And one of the things that we came up with was we developed 3 different beverages. And we're going to debut them next week here on the channel. And we hope that not only will you guys be a consumer of our intellect and debate, that you'll also be a consumer of some of the products that we put out, because we need your help, because we got some big things that we're working on, and we're trying to raise some capital. So with that, I'm gonna let everybody get going. I gotta go to sleep. I am so tired. I am so tired. But with that, I'll say good night. God bless. And as always, you guys be safe and shoot straight. We'll talk to you guys next Friday. Yeah. Why Saturday? I don't know. Shows you how screwed up my head is. I'm out of here.
All right.
Have a good night, Frank. Get some
I'm
rest.
doing this from outside. Look, right there. I don't know if I can get it in the camera. No, I can't. Where is it? Ah, there it is.
What, the moon over your
That's
head?
the
Yeah.
moon. Yeah. Coming to you by moonlight. So, all right, kids. Good night. Catch you guys next week.
All right, Frank.
All right, Frank.
Good night,
See
everybody.
you next week.
So here's the thing, because we're kind of talking about the money that's being spent, the taxes that are always going higher, the fees, because when they want to hide and they're afraid of saying taxes, they say fees instead, or registration or licensing. They have a dozen different ways of saying you're going to spend more money. The government's going to take more money from you because the government doesn't think you can spend it as well as they can, which means it's going to whatever partisan political ideology, they're going to spend it on their wish list, not actually to help you, not because it's more effective or efficient, just because it's part of whatever election scheme they have. It's left and right do this on a regular basis, which is why we're at $33 trillion.
Absolutely.
But now we have the shutdown. And here's the thing for me. I don't know. You tell me, Mike. I'm looking at the shutdown this week. It's not the first time. We've had 27 shutdowns, more actually than that. We had one 3 years ago. I don't care about the shutdowns anymore. It's becomes. This is why the United States got downgraded for the second time. First under Obama, with Biden as VP, now with Biden in the White House, Kamala as VP. We got the second downgrade because why? The budget, because of the debt, because of shutdowns in our government. Exactly what they warned us about is exactly what's happening. And we're going to shut down the government again. And if it lasts less than a week, which is normally what the political will allows, somewhere between 2 days and a week is how long these things tend to last, because it has absolutely no impact. You won't notice the difference. No one's going to care. It's not going to change anyone's life. So that first week is meaningless. So I don't care that the government's going to shut down right now, because it'll last about a week and it's not going to do anything because we just spend that much money. It's ridiculous.
Now, here's my whole thinking. Okay, and there's varying reports. One says there's been 21. Another source says 14 times. Another source says 10 times.
Depends on how you count it.
It does. Okay, and what you count as a shutdown. Here's another one that says 21.
Yeah. There's a bunch of ways to count it. And again, it's look at the sources very often. You'll see whichever source is in favor of the shutdown will cite one number versus the guys who don't want it. So whoever's trying to, the number varies, but it doesn't matter. The fact is, we'll go a week. The average person in America is not going to notice the difference. It's not going to impact people's lives. Really, it doesn't really impact people until about a month in. That's how much money our government spends. That's how much money is being spent already. That it takes a month of absolutely no money in the government not doing anything before the impact actually catches up to people's lives. You have to go about 30 days before people start feeling any difference in their life. You can't do that for any other business. You name any other business, you shut them down for 30 days, you shut them down for a week, that company may never come back to business again. The government,
for 30 days, they're done.
Yeah, 30 days, they're almost never coming back. But the government, no problem. They can be down for a week. They can be down for 30 days. Doesn't matter. They'll turn around and they'll be right back and no one will notice the difference. That's crazy.
Well, and they're using all kinds of scare tactics, like the federal parks will be shut down and closed up. The park rangers will be and park workers will be put on furloughs and blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the thing. Most government employees are paid on the 15th and the 30th of the month. Okay? At least that's the way it was when I was in the military. Now, granted, that may have changed. But typically the government pays twice a month. If the government shuts down for 2 or 3 days, unless it's on the 15th or the 30th, the government employees are still going to get their paychecks. Okay? Because they are still operating on the budget from the previous budget. And when this budget is passed, they will start operations under that budget when it's time it goes into effect. Okay, so nobody's going to be missing a paycheck. And
Well,
even if they do,
yeah.
even if they do, they will get that back pay. Okay,
Yeah.
on the next check cycle.
Well, that's
Okay,
what I
so
got. That's what I got up here. WUSA, Channel 9 News. This is CBS affiliate, and they're telling everyone, the workers, if there's a shutdown, they're guaranteed to get the back pay, and in between getting the back pay and whatever time frame, they may go on unemployment. So they'll get money to get through the week by week. And also, they'll get all their back pay. Of course, they have to pay back the money. They still have to pay back the money. So they're not losing their ability to pay their bills. They're getting the money, short term and long term. They lose nothing.
And it's just the source that they're getting it from at the time. Yeah. Okay. And they, like I said, they will be reimbursed the full amount of any checks that they may miss. And yeah, they would have to pay back any unemployment benefits they receive. Okay, but they're not out any money. That's just it. They're trying to scare you that they are going to be out money. Okay, these federal workers are not going to be out anything.
No, not short term, not long term. They will not be losing money.
Now, the next thing is if our government is so large that an extended government shutdown would have such severe repercussions across our country, then our government is extremely too large. Okay, our government, by design, is to provide for the general welfare and the common defense. Okay, that's it. And a lot of people try to say that the general welfare includes all these welfare programs that only a select group of people are eligible for. And that's wrong. That is not general welfare. If only a small subset of a group is eligible for a particular benefit, then that does not qualify as general welfare, because general welfare means exactly the welfare of the whole, not the welfare of the some, but the welfare of everyone. Okay, so if these programs like WIC, Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, et cetera, are supposed to be for the general welfare, then every citizen of the United States should automatically be eligible for them. All they should have to do is prove citizenship.
Well, there's a touchy subject. Hey, citizenship. Oh, no. Don't say citizenship. Everyone's allowed in and should get free money. Matter of fact, people who aren't citizens should get free money even faster, and they do.
Now, if any person is ineligible for any of those programs, then that program no longer qualifies as general welfare, because it is not the welfare of the entirety of the nation. They will try to browbeat you and say, well, if we provide for this, it will actually help the nation as a whole. No, it doesn't.
Well, it's the same argument they make about illegal aliens. The illegal aliens are a net positive. That's why New York City is going $12 billion into debt. That's why California is going bankrupt. Yeah, because illegal aliens are a net benefit. No, they're not. It's a lie. Same thing with what they're saying here. It sounds good until you actually do the math. Doesn't work.
Okay, so when you look at the Constitution and the fact that the federal government is only authorized to provide for the general welfare and the common defense of the entire nation, not any subset group of the nation, but the entire nation, then programs like WIC, Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, whatever other program that you want to call out, okay, FHA, the Freddie Mac and those programs, tuition reimbursement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then those programs are unauthorized spending by our federal government. Okay, because it does not benefit every citizen of the United States. And if it does not benefit every citizen of the United States, then the federal government is not authorized to conduct that spending. These research programs that go sunk into various state colleges and universities and so forth, again, those aren't a benefit to the entirety of the United States. So it is unauthorized spending. These programs where they build roads, okay, especially roads that are completely contained within a state or within a community, a county, those shouldn't be authorized for federal funds. Okay, the Constitution does say that Congress and the federal government is to maintain post roads. Well, post roads are roads between military installations and post offices. It's not all these other roads.
Yeah. It's crazy. But again, that takes people paying attention to the details. And it also means denying people free, air quotes, free stuff, which is why they give away free stuff, because people lose their minds when you stop giving them what they think is free, which is actually being paid for on the back end, always, which is why it's destroying our economy.
The federal government also sends out billions of dollars in disaster relief funds. Okay, again, nowhere in the Constitution does it say anything about disaster relief. Not one place. But yet, I don't know how many billions of dollars has been sent. How much money was sent to Maui? How much money was sent down during Katrina? How much money was sent to this, that, or other natural disaster? Okay. How much money is going to be sent to New York City because of the flooding that's happening? Okay. No, the federal government does not have that authority to use the money use taxpayer funds for those purposes. If other states want to provide relief for a state that has been burdened by a natural disaster, then they do that from their state funds, provided their state constitutions allow for it.
Yeah, it's over 400 million that's being spent by at least in a quick glance, just looking over very quickly right now, coming from the Economic Development Administration for the United States, at least 483 million, billion. Yeah, 725 million from the Disaster Relief Fund, 483 million coming from the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program. This is all in 2023, by the way. There was 1.7 billion for the USDA. We're talking tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, just for disaster relief.
Okay, now we've also got this deal going on in the Ukraine.
That's 44 billion for
Okay.
2023 alone.
There is nothing in the Constitution that provides for spending for foreign nations. Nothing.
Yeah. And yet and again, 44 billion, that's just for the Ukraine, just in 2023. That's on top of the 120 billion we spent in 2022 alone. And there is more funding that's what part of the shutdown is about, is additional funding on top of the 44 billion to be spent in Ukraine. It's one of the talking points and one of the sticking points of the debt debate. So we're talking, it could be as high as $75, $100 billion, but when it's all said and done for 2023 alone. Then in 2024, we're going to do it again. And that's just one country. Just one.
Okay. And as you guys know, I like to base things off what the Constitution says. Okay? Because the Constitution are the rules for how our government is to operate. Okay? That's what the Constitution is. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to share. And it's very easy to find this stuff, folks. I mention it all the time. Okay. Article 1, Section 8 details the authority of the United States Congress. Okay. And it says right here, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, excises, to pay the debts, and to provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Okay, it has the authority to borrow money on the credit of the United States. But that borrowing money is to be for this specific thing. Okay. And for the operation of the other obligations that is put on Congress. Okay. And that is to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. And we're going to have to go into what this particular phrase means one of these days, because the Interstate Commerce Clause that they try to pass so many things under.
Yeah, it's kind of abusive.
Yeah, they abuse this clause very readily to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Okay, we've been talking about immigration today, and I've came out because of this specific clause right here that the federal government actually has no authority over immigration. It only has authority to set the rules of what is required in order to become a United States citizen. Okay, immigration is actually a power that has been delegated to the state and not the federal government. To coin money and regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and to fix the standards of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of United States. Okay, so right here is the only clause where it talks about the United States making laws that are punitive in nature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or counterfeiting.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only authority the federal government has over providing penalties for. Okay, to actually make it illegal to do something. To establish post offices and post roads. Again, the majority of the infrastructure bill was in violation of this. Okay. Post offices and post roads do not include marinas, canals, or any type of waterways. Promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing. Now, a lot of them like to take just this first section here. To promote the progress of science and useful arts as the authority to be able to fund studies and so forth and so on. They forget this last part here. The only way that they are allowed to promote the progress of science and useful arts is by securing for a limited time to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. In other words, by issuing patents and copyrights and trademarks. Any other spending beyond that is not authorized. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. To define and punish piracies, felonies committed on the high seas, and offenses against the law of nations. There's the second place where Congress is given authorization to enact punitive laws. And that is for piracies and felonies committed on the high seas, not across state lines or anything like that, only on the high seas, and offenses that violate the law of nations or international law. To declare wars, grants letters of marque and reprisal, and to make rules concerning captures on land and water. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a term longer than 2 years. So any funding for military spending outside of the Navy for longer than 2 years is not authorized.
So the upshot of all this is they're spending money that they don't have the right to spend, putting us further into debt, which is increasing our inflation. And this is how it relates to the average person. All of this that you've just detailed equals to the average person. Why it matters to their life is this is why food is so, one of the reasons why food is so expensive, energy is so expensive, why you have so much inflation and you're losing money every time the inflation rate goes up. How the CPI, when that comes out, when we look at this, you're losing money because the government is spending your money and putting you deeper into debt, whether you like it or not, whether you pay attention or not. This is all the stuff that they are wasting money on, violating the Constitution and hurting you. And most people go, but I don't pay attention to politics. Politics is still affecting you whether you pay attention or not. So you might as well know something about it, right?
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, think about it. Everyone wants to talk about what just happened with on Wednesday, the second Republican debate. And everyone wants to, ooh, there was a Republican debate and Donald Trump is still the front runner. That hasn't changed. And ooh, we were just talking about how Kamala might replace Joe Biden because Joe Biden is despised by more people than not. No one wants him to run. But let's think about what are the things you're not paying attention to when they're pointing to today. The entire day has been spoken about. Oh, Diane Feinstein died. Again, sad for her family and friends that she's dead. But what else is happening in our country? We're preparing for a new president. We have a guy in the White House who has mental deficiencies and is not effective or efficient in his job. We have a vice president who's supposed to be in charge of immigration, AI, and now gun control, and is inefficient and ineffective. We have a New Mexico governor who is violating the Second Amendment and trying to usurp all of the powers of the public under the Constitution, which we're not talking about. We're not talking about what's going on with our election system and election integrity, which is a problem that we all recognize. I know in 2016, you had Hillary Clinton easily recognized it. In 2000, we easily heard Democrats talking about it with Al Gore. In Georgia, we heard, what's her name? Stacey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, her.
That black woman, Stacey, whatever her name is, in Georgia. Abrams, that's it. Stacey Abrams, who still hasn't acknowledged that she lost in 2018. She was talking about it. Even it was former Congressman Anthony Brindisi of the New York 22 in 2020 was talking about how it was 2022, talking about how he felt there were election irregularities. So we are seeing this. There are many more issues, and we're not talking about them because they're wasting time and being so easily distracted. And that's dangerous, folks.
Now, I am trying to work out another live stream where I'm going to be going through the Constitution. Because a lot of things that we believe the president has authority over, you would be surprised to find out just how little authority the president actually has constitutionally. And everybody thinks he's supposed to be this oh so powerful being. No, the president is not supposed to be this oh so powerful being. Okay, except we have allowed him to go from a servant of the people, a voice of the people, to becoming essentially a monarch over the people. And that's not what our country was founded on. That's not the principles of our country. So I am going to be starting that up here in the not too distant future, doing a live stream where I go through the Constitution and we have these discussions. We have these talks and go through literally line by line, clause by clause, word by word, and show how they are literally usurping power from you, robbing it away from you, robbing it away from the states, and taking authority over things that they have no constitutional powers to do.
But people want to have the distraction. I mean, we got to point this out, and we should talk about this because it came up. I mean, it was this week. So we know that people have been distracting themselves looking at the second Republican debate, which was useless, really. It's everybody who's running for second place. And what did we see? Pretty much what we knew what was going to happen. Burgum, who just got onto the stage by a miracle and a prayer, doesn't count. He's useless, gone. Chris Christie, who really isn't relevant, gone. No. He's off the stage.
Christie hasn't been relevant since 9/11.
Exactly. And we can see in the last 2 days, the most recent polling, 2 days after the event, what happened? Donald Trump jumped up 10 points to 63. 10 points increase from 53 to 63. Gee, we know who's going to be in charge of the Republican. And this is without him ever showing up on the stage. Not that he was silent. He was out having speeches in Michigan, talking to workers over at Michigan, car manufacturers, talking about that strike and how that's negatively impacting America. So he was out telling people about his politics. So it's not like, oh, we don't get to hear what Donald Trump thinks about being president. We have his history, and we had him talking about it, just not on a debate stage, so he could talk more. But we saw...
And go to social.
Well, yeah, he's constantly telling us. So it's not like people aren't being informed. We had Ron DeSantis falling off a cliff. He's dropping again. Nikki Haley basically holding second place, tied with Vivek Ramaswamy, because every time he gets to get on the stage, his charisma comes out. He's up there. And a surge on Tim Scott. Everybody else is falling off a cliff. What do we see as a consistent thing? When people do pay attention to the politics that's going on right now, they do not want to keep going down the path we are currently on. They do not want to keep being down this path of socialism. They do not want to go down this path of more debt, of more emphasis on illegal aliens, more diversity, equity, and inclusion, the categorization of individuals, the progressive ideology that dehumanizes us. They want to move back towards individuals having more freedom, having more choices, and a smaller government. And somehow we're the bad guys for saying those things. I will never understand that.
Yeah, they don't. And one of the biggest reasons why I am going to, like I said, start doing a live stream, going literally word by word through the Constitution, is so that people really understand what authority our federal government is supposed to have and compare it to the authority that they've stolen from us through their manipulation, through their fear mongering, through this, that, and the other. Okay, and we've allowed it. That's the whole thing. The Declaration of Independence literally says that the government gets its authority from those it governs. Literally says it. Okay? And I don't care what type of government you look at, whether it's an authoritarian or is a pure democracy. All government gets its authority from those it's governed, that are governed. Okay? Sometimes that authority is given through fear, but ultimately, if the people that are being governed rise up and rebel against the people governing, they can oust them.
Taxpayers are speaking out.
We've seen that happen.
County are
Sorry.
We've seen it happen time and time again. Okay, and our country, our very nation, was founded this way. Canada was founded that way. Australia. I mean, I can go on and on, naming various countries that were established in that manner.
Yeah.
Okay. We've seen governments rise and fall by the will of the people. Okay. So, all governments, regardless of what type of government it is, gets its authority by those it governs. Now, we need to be looking at, are we going to continue giving the authority to our government to continue acting in a manner that we don't agree with, that we don't alike, that we are very much opposed to, and you can find that opposition in any polling that you do about the approval ratings. And I don't care which government is in power. I don't care which party is in power. You can just look at the approval ratings and see how they have tanked. And we continue to allow it year after year because we don't want to be involved. We're too busy. We don't do politics. Well, folks, you get the government you deserve.
Politics is doing you, whether you do politics or not. And it's not very pleasant.
And if you don't want to be involved, you don't want to do something about it, you don't want to start holding our government accountable, guess what? We're going to continue down the same path that we're on.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who's going to pay for it? Not you. Not you. Your children.
Yeah.
Your grandchildren. Your great-grandchildren. Those are the ones that are going to pay for your involvement. We're supposed to be making it better for the generations that come after us. We are failing.
True. That is true.
So continue to say, I don't do politics. And you are selling your great-grandchildren's lives because you couldn't be bothered. You're selling your children's lives because you couldn't be bothered.
That is the net result of it. I mean, again, sounds harsh, but that's the reality at the end of the day. Really is.
No, we didn't allow it because our parents and our grandparents allowed it. And we're going to continue allowing it because we are too busy not being involved.
Well, this is in response to Mike Bowie, who said, we didn't, quote, allow, end quote, this to happen. It's been going on for decades. But again, it's the same thing like, why was Diane Feinstein in for 4 decades? Or looking at Chuck Schumer or Mitch McConnell or Nancy Pelosi. Why have they been in for most people lifetimes of many generations of our nation? They've been in for generations. Why are they still there? Because people aren't involved. Why is our national debt at $33 trillion? Our unfunded liabilities are over $190 trillion, 4 times the amount of money in the world. How did we get to these numbers? How is all of this happening? Same thing that's a macro scale. Let's bring it down smaller. Why are there 7 million illegal aliens coming into America since Joe Biden's taken over? Why is it that we see over 110,000, 150,000 illegal aliens in New York State, in New York City alone in the last, 6 months? Why are we seeing these things happen? They're all the same root cause. Because Staten Island at this moment is complaining about the illegal aliens. Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx are not. That's why there are so many illegal aliens coming in. Because because Kamala Harris hasn't done her job since March of 2021 to secure the border or to even slow down illegal immigration. In fact, she's helped increase it. Like when I refer to Arizona welding the gates open, they're increasing the net amount of illegal immigration, not reducing it. And these are all the same problem. The average person hasn't stood up and said, wait a minute, this is crazy. When New Mexico's governor said she has more power than you, she has every right to strip all of your rights, that she can say emergency and you no longer have any rights in America. And that's not still being discussed. And one of the top line arguments in conversations in America today, that the Arizona governor, Katie Hobbs, can just disappear and make up a story after the fact while leaving her constituents in the dark on why she disappeared and how she disappeared. And we're not continuing to talk about it because some media station said, don't worry about it. Wait a minute. No, that's not a conversation. That's a command. And the more that we have allowed people to command us, that Chuck Schumer says that he's decreeing what we're going to do, not following what people told him to do. That's why it's getting worse. So yeah, we are kind of allowing it, Mike Bowie. We've been doing that for decades, and it's only getting worse.
And we're allowing it to continue.
Yeah. Sorry, it was a little long, but
continue.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just looking at some stuff. Okay. In essentially 10 years, we have literally doubled the national debt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again.
Okay.
Keyword there is again. We doubled it under the Obama administration. We've doubled it again since then.
Okay. In 10 years prior to that, okay, so roughly about every 10 years, it looks like we are doubling our national debt. Since okay, well, actually, we from 2001 to 2011, we almost tripled our national debt.
The doubling effect was under the Obama administration from 2009 to 2017 when he left, and then under Bush, which is 2001, 2009, you had the recession. from 9/11, then a rebound, and then the Great Recession, and there was stupid amount of spending both at the beginning and end of his terms. So those are problems. But yeah,
So
it's just been an increase.
From not okay. So since about 2000, we've roughly been doubling the national debt every 2 years, and it's up, or every 10 years, and in some cases in less time than that. And in one case, like I was just pointing out, we tripled the national debt in 10 years. Prior to that, it took from 1987 to 2000 to double the national debt.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is that? 13 years?
They're about.
No, it's more than that. Yeah, 13 years. But we continue to allow this. Okay, this may have started before us, but we can't go back and change what previous generations have done. We can only account for ourselves.
Well, look at this.
And we can take account for what we do today.
Yeah, but just look at how bad this is. Now, right now, we're at current day. Let me show you. So 2023, right this second, the national debt is at $33.1 trillion. That's just this second. Mark this down, record this. $33.1 trillion. And the projection, these are the estimates. This is good and bad. If nothing else changed, we'll be at $45 trillion this day in 2027. That's just 4 years. In the best case scenario, perfect scenario, we'd be at 39.3. And according to the OMB, so depending on Congress, gives you a perfect, everything worked out, nothing's wrong, we'll have $39 trillion in debt. According to the Office of Management and Budget, we're looking at $40.3 trillion. And the reality tends to be somewhere between the OMB and the projection, probably closer to about $42 trillion. We're at 33. Why does that matter? Well, in the very best case possible, assuming that the CBO, Congress, is telling the truth, and we had the perfect world, and everything goes absolutely right, you're looking at 20% more inflation. That's the part no one wants to tell you. That's 20% more inflation. 20%.
In 4 years.
In 4 years. No one told you. Think about that when you're paying. How much do you think a gallon of milk will cost with another 20% inflation in the best case scenario? That's everything going perfect because Congress, it got it all right. When have you ever seen government get it all right? I mean, there's the scope of things. That gives you an idea.
Well, and here's something else that we need to be looking at. Okay, everybody's relying on their 401ks or these IRAs and et cetera for their retirement. Okay, is your 401k going to grow 20% in 4 years?
4 years? No. The very best in a great booming stock market, like the .com craze. Yeah, then you would get it. And in every other market you're looking at, in best case, if you did everything right, which 80% of investors don't. As a stockbroker, I know this for a fact. 80% of people don't do anything right with their accounts. But the best you're looking at, 6.5% on average. 6.5%. Best case scenario per year. You can't keep up with inflation like that.
Mm-mm.
And that's being perfect. And 80% of investors don't do that. You're not going to make this money back. And that's just to stay even. That's not even to be ahead. That's to keep even with inflation.
And I don't know about you, but unless you happen to be part of the UAW, I don't see you getting a 20% raise in 4 years.
No. What, most people get what, a quarter, 50 cents, maybe $1, depending on the company, maybe.
Okay, so folks, we're in trouble because I do agree with you, Michael Bowie. Yeah, we didn't allow this to happen. But our ancestors did allow it to happen. Okay? Generations that came before us did allow us to happen. And we can say, well, we didn't cause this. And, well, it's not my fault, so I'm not going. No.
Yeah, but we're causing what's happening now and what's going to happen in the future.
Okay? And if we don't take action now, guess what? What we're saying about our past is what our great grandchildren will be saying about their past. Okay. I mean, I do appreciate the comments, Michael Bowie, and I'm not railing on you. Don't get me wrong. And yeah, making speeches isn't going to. Okay. But we are trying to wake people up. Okay. And I'm not talking woke ideology. I'm talking actual awakening of people to understand that we are the ones ultimately that are responsible. At the end of the day, we, the people, are the ones that are responsible. And we can blame it on a corrupt, massively corrupt, organized criminal organization. Okay. But do we just allow it to continue? Or do we start taking action today? Okay. And yeah, speeches aren't going to do it. Education will. And there are other actions that we can take.
Voting. Everyone getting involved in voting.
Okay. Finding people that are actually going to abide by the Constitution, regardless of party. Okay, running for office ourselves. Holding politicians accountable when they step out of line. And the Liberty First Foundation is taking steps to do just that thing. And no single one of us can do this alone. It's going to take all of us, or a good majority of us. People like to say that it only took 3% to do the road. No, it took a lot more than 3%. That is a wives' tale. Okay, that is what 3%ers want you to believe. Okay, it took more than that. Yeah, there's a lot of Tories, but it took a lot more than just 3% of the United States.
Yeah. So But we get it, and I get that this isn't, and I should make it clear, we're not targeting any one individual.
No,
There are many
absolutely not.
There are many people who are doing things, or they are going out and voting. They are trying to do the process. They're trying to make people aware at their work and their friends. They're trying to share this program and other programs and say, just whether you agree or not, just get educated on the issue, hear the different voices. And I know there's a lot of people out there, my audience, this audience, many audiences are out there doing that. The thing we're trying to emphasize is to those who aren't out there doing something, this is your wake-up call. If you've been waiting to see what's the signal, what's going to happen next, what's the reason, we're giving you those reasons right now. We're trying to give you that warning ahead of time. And for those who are saying, should I know it's a hard process. It's like, I feel like I should give up. It's like, no, don't. Because this is what happens if we don't. We just showed you the CBO. We just showed you the budget. We just showed you 20% inflation that people are saying, yeah, that's okay. By the way, if you look at the budgets, if you look at the numbers, they're talking about $50 trillion in debt by 2030. That's 7 years from now. Think about that. 2030, they're talking at least $50 trillion in debt. Again.
And I would venture to say, based upon what's being pushed from both sides of the aisle, that number is going to be much closer to $70 trillion.
Probably.
Than it is $50 trillion.
Well, again, looking at just going in 3 years, we're probably trending closer to 42 trillion. So in 7 years, yeah, it's very easily 60 to 70 trillion dollars. But I mean, just going by the conservative, again, I'm giving you the most conservative numbers that can be made. The best case scenario is assuming that the government worked perfectly and there was no hiccups and everything turned out like they promised us it will. And you're looking at 20, 50, 70% inflation. You're not getting that in your job. You can't keep up with that. The cost of living is beyond everyone. And you're just not rich enough for that. No one is. That is the destruction of our government. So for the people who are sitting on the sidelines that listen to this and say, oh, that's interesting. Okay, I heard that blurb. This is your wake-up call. Get involved. Because you're not going to survive this. Your bank account's not going to survive this. Your kids aren't going to survive this. Not intact.
Let alone your grandkids.
Not with freedom. Yeah, let alone the grandkids. I mean, this is what we're really, it's not about we're not targeting the one individual. We're talking about the argument, the trend, and the fact that none of this is all preventable. The Constitution prevents this. Following the Constitution, speaking up about your rights prevents this. And that means it can stop this. We just have to get up and have our voices heard. Because when we're silent, you get Arizona's Katie Hobbs. You get New Mexico's Grisham. You get New York's Hochul. You get California's Newsom, Michigan's Whitmer. That's when you get those kinds of people doing those kinds of things, telling you to your face that they will take away every single right you have and will treat you like a category, not a human being. They've all said it. They've all said it to your face. So if you like that, if you like being treated like an object, hey, fantastic. But I think most people want to be treated like Americans, which means you're an individual. You got to speak up.
Okay, we rail on this every week.
Yeah.
And we rail about getting involved every week. Okay, and we will continue every week. Because until we do start organizing together and uniting as people, we are going to see this country continue to go downhill. And in my lifetime, I've seen it go downhill. And that's one of the reasons why I started taking action. It's one of the reasons why I helped co-found the Liberty First Foundation, was so that we could start making a difference. And we come on here every week and we talk about various things that are going wrong throughout this country. Every once in a while, we talk about something that's gone right, but those are few and far between.
Well, we also mostly talk about the solutions.
And we do. We talk about the solutions. Okay. And one of the biggest solutions is the restoration of the foundation of our government, which is the Constitution of the United States. That is the foundation. And ultimately, the foundation of the Constitution is we the people. But no single one of us can do it alone. And that's why we have a membership drive going for the Liberty First Foundation. We are in the process of trying to raise money to be able to afford to hold these people accountable. I don't have deep pockets. Mike definitely doesn't have deep pockets. Neither does Frank. But all of us putting in a little bit can make a massive amount. So we do ask that you become a member. And if you don't like us, great, that's fine. Find another constitutional organization and become part of them. Help them with their fight. Okay, you've got the 10th Amendment Center. You've got the Cato Institute. You got the Heritage Foundation and many others. Okay, but find somebody to join up with and help strengthen their voice, or join with us and help strengthen our voice. Either way, the link's on the screen, and you can find us through the Liberty First Foundation website at l1f.us. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just do a search for the Liberty First Foundation and we will come up. Okay. But if nothing else, do us a favor, and it does help. Like our live stream, like our shows, like our page, like our group. Join our Facebook group. Okay, become part of the conversation there. Comment. But more than anything else, share. That's how we get the information to people that we can't reach alone. That is the biggest way that we can actually start getting this information out there, is through sharing it. We're here every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate everybody in the comments. Michael, again, I wasn't railing on you. I do appreciate your input. I do appreciate your comments. I appreciate Jan, Dahl, Agent Black, everybody else that shows up and has comments. They are much appreciated. And as always, we do encourage you to challenge us on our positions. Okay? Because we aren't perfect. We aren't all knowing. Okay? And maybe we do get something wrong, but we won't know that we got something wrong without your input. Okay? So, dude, challenge us. Okay? At the very least, challenge us to allow us to defend our position if you think we're wrong. But either way, get involved, Join the conversation. We'll see you next week, Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.